Like always, I hate paying extra money for something that I just feel that I'm not going to get anything in return. Yeah, I've always hated insurance.
So I met Toby early 2012. He was a late 20s, self-employed contracting builder, a high-risk job.
My fiance and I, we purchased a house, and then we kind of just things have been ticking away quite nicely. Like we've been budgeting for, making sure everything was paid and what we had left to spend. When I went round to One Path and we went over the whole, this is what you're going to get, and you're going to get this and that, and rah-de-rah, I just turned my nose up at it and I just said, no, this is a waste of time.
Initially, it was quite hard work to really impress upon him the need for these products.
My fiance had actually said to me, maybe we should reconsider, we should really look at this, because obviously me probably being the main income earner in our household, that it was quite important that I was actually covered to the max. I knew I would have had to have home contents and home insurance. That's obviously one thing, but then you start to think that it's so important having to have insurances for all those things, but then your livelihood as well, having to make sure that without this you can't pay your mortgage. For me anyway, if I don't have any tools, all these other things as well, health insurance and rah-de-rah-de-rah.
To an extent, he definitely felt a bit bulletproof, but as we worked through it and how the products, were there to benefit and what they could do, and work through different scenarios of, this is how it would work or this could happen, etc. It definitely dawned on them that if one of them was off work, there's a big debt to be serviced, that they really needed that coverage there. So that's the medical, the mortgage repayment, the income, the trauma, the TPD, and the life cover.
I've never really had to think about it, especially like accident insurance, things like that. I've kind of just thought if I injure myself, well, everything's no, it's not too expensive. I can still afford to do it, just by, Katrina, my fiance, she can cover me, but now her wage won't cover me. I have to be at work. Money's definitely a pretty important when you own your first home, because it was pretty stressful for us, just buying our first home for a start. And when I look at it, and now that I've had a couple of injuries, this major injury, yeah, I'm glad she convinced me, because it would have been tough. It was funny because it was my first day back at work actually this year, and I'd been overseas for a week, and I came back. Yeah, I was measuring the cut depth on my router, and stupidly, which probably most builders would know, that you should unplug your tools before you carry on and do such things. But trying to cut corners, and that's what happens. My left-hand elbow hit the trigger, and the router came through and just took out my knuckle. I kind of looked at my hand when I first did, and I said, oh shit, and then ran off to the first aid place and went to pick up the first aid kit, and my finger wouldn't bend, and I realised that I'd actually cut a tendon. So that's when I realised how bad it was, because I was just going to pick up a plaster.
I received a call from Katrina saying that Toby had an accident, and she had rushed him to the hospital.
And I wasn't actually the only patient there. There was probably about 5 builders waiting in an emergency that had problems, that had cut fingers. I wasn't the only one, there was heaps of people.
Toby was stood down from work initially, I believe it was for about 12 weeks. So we got the claim into One Path, let them know all these details and bits and pieces, and let them do their thing, while he was off seeing specialists and working through all his hand therapy and getting better.
Is it swelling or getting sore by the end of the day or anything like that? Has that
it's
actually settled down quite well?
I actually haven't even really noticed.
That's good.
When I went to hands-on to find out how long I was going to have off work, it did. She said to me that initially people with injuries like this, you might be off work for 6 months, and that was a minimum. So I kind of panicked a wee bit then, because I thought, that was actually starting to worry me a bit. But thankfully, taking out insurance with the first home, that really, that came into play.
It was a very, very fresh policy. It'd only been in force for a few months, and the claims team were fantastic. And Toby was definitely very relieved with such a large debt and having to service that debt, and there's no way out of that. you know, it definitely gave him a lot of peace of mind and helped him massively through the time that he had to have off work.
It would be very, very tough. I don't think I would have. If without insurance, I don't think I would have been able to. I don't think I would have been able to pay the mortgage. Probably, I think we would have been pretty tight. We would have had to make some pretty major adjustments.
He's been actually really fortunate to be able to return to building, and if it had been slightly different, or he'd even had a small complication like a nasty infection in the finger or something like that, which also happens regularly, then that may have made the difference between him being able to continue building or not.
Well, I mean, when I injured my finger just looked like that. So, and I've basically got it from there to, you know, actually being able to grip a hammer. So that's been the main thing for me, is rehab and trying to get my hands around my tools.
In my opinion, you're never too young to get in, and the earlier the better. You know, in regards to health exclusions and things like that, the younger you can get in and really get a good insurance policy, the far better off you'll be.
Definitely, I would definitely advise young kids to take out insurance, especially people that are looking at buying their first home. It's crucial. You need to have it.